Hey everybody, Jeffrey Beamer here, Senior Investment Strategist over at ewotrader.com. Welcome to our earnings call this week. We're going to be talking about an earnings overview, key earnings focus, talking about all the stocks that are coming up this week with earnings. We'll talk about some earnings related headlines, and then I've got a trade for you to follow this week. All coming up. So let's get right into it. This is our new show with an earnings focus. And boy, this is perfect timing for this as we have over 688 companies. Well, actually, that is the number 688 companies declaring earnings this week. And that all different industries. We have airlines, we have automakers, we have all sorts of industries represented this week. And as we look at our run sheet here on the earnings, we had a couple of earnings that we'll talk about in just a moment that came off this morning. Tomorrow, we have things like Coca-Cola and Visa. But the list is long, and the sheet here is looking at mostly all the big caps, all the big cap companies that are declaring this week. But as I mentioned, there is lots going on. So let's kind of narrow down the focus a little bit. I'm going to start this week. We're going to talk about several companies, and all of them are coming up this week. In fact, we're going to begin with Google or Alphabet. All right. And remember, there's two symbols that are trading for Alphabet. There's GOOG, which is the Class C shares, and GOOGL, which is the Class A shares. And we have the Class C shares that we're looking at right here. They're trading about $2 apart right now. But you can see the little formation that is forming here on this particular stock as we head into earnings. Now, the reason why I pay attention to things like this is because of the kind of anticipation of a possible move in the stock. And right now, Google traditionally moves around 9% around earnings. So we could see a little pop or a little drop tomorrow on Google whenever they declare, and they are declaring tomorrow after market close. Next on our sheet here is Coca-Cola. Now, Coca-Cola is tomorrow morning, and you can see that currently they're trading at 64.72 on Coca-Cola. Now, the thing about Coca-Cola is, it's a well-known name, but this is a stock that just doesn't move very much through earnings. Don't anticipate much going on because this is such a mature company. Typically, this stock moves less than 2% around earnings, and it's you trade this a little differently than you do some of these other names that we're going to talk about in just a moment. So Coca-Cola again coming in tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow after market close, I believe, is Visa. That is yes, tomorrow after market close, and we have a stock that is in a downtrend, and this stock could remain under pressure. If I bring in a little bit more data here, you can see that the stock had a nice rally going into the spring, but now has been selling off. So depending on how the consumer is doing, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, is because depending on how the consumer is doing, we could see some pressure on Visa, or we could see some strength in the consumer. All right. And we could get a pop. So Visa is one, but historically, Visa is also a quiet stock. It only moves about 3% historically through its earnings. Again, it's a mature company. Now, talking about the consumer a little bit, let's move over to the airlines. We have two airlines. We had one declared this morning, Ryanair, and that stock got absolutely obliterated. In fact, I'll just show you here if I can bring it up here. Yeah, there it is. You can see the big drop on Ryanair. So they had earnings this morning, really disappointed. Stock gap down, trading down big on RYAAY on Ryanair. But that leads us into then American Airlines, and its earnings call coming up later this week. All right, you can see the stock really under pressure. I know a lot of the airlines suffered last week from the CrowdStrike software update issue, and we could see some possible messaging for future, what's coming up in the future from American, and that could be pretty good, or that could be not so good. I'm thinking pretty good. A lot of people are traveling right now. Bookings are up. So we could see a pop in the stock on American Airlines. Not really sure. Typically, it moves. It moves a little bit through earnings. That one's kind of a toss up, honestly. But Lynn, let's look at Love now. Southwest Airlines, LUV is the symbol here. This stock is the one that's really interesting because um, boy, last earnings cycle, that's this big gap that you see here. The stock dropping, and then it just kind of channeling between 25 at the low and $30. It's been stuck in a maximum $5 range. We could see a pop or drop. Believe it or not, Southwest Airlines was not affected so much by the CrowdStrike issue last week, but they have earnings on Thursday, and we'll keep an eye on Love, because they will typically move about 8% through earnings. All right. And so if you're trying to trade it, just realize that's kind of going to be typically a little bigger mover, as you can see from the chart, than say American Airlines than like a Coca-Cola or a Visa. All right. Southwest can typically move a little bit more. All right. And so these are some of the things that I wanted to zero in on off of that, off of all the earnings this week. All right. But believe it or not, the media is kind of focused in a different direction. And they are focused really on car manufacturers this week. All right. So let's begin with some of those, and we'll take a look at our first real headline of the week, and that involves all the Detroit automakers. Okay, so we can begin with Ford. Now, the headline that grabbed my attention here, outside of the automakers reporting, was GM is set to be the standout. I don't know if that's necessarily true of all the automakers, and I'll tell you what I think is going to be the standout this week and the most notable one in just a moment. But let's talk about Detroit first. All right. So up on my screen, we have Ford, and you can see they rallied up right ahead of earnings. We have Ford coming out this week. We also have GM coming out this week, General Motors. That is set to be the standout. But you can see here the stock really historically, it makes a little bit of a move, maybe gapping up or down. But you can see that they're on a nice little win streak. And they're giving credit, believe it or not, mostly to their EV sales and their hybrid sales, and that they're doing a lot better in those departments. But I think there's still some underlying things that are some clouds that are going to be coming in that department here in the future. It's a little ways off, but I don't think that GM is necessarily the headline. Stellantis is also declaring this week. Again, that's the parent company of Chrysler. You can see that the stock has been consolidating here a little bit. We have, been under a lot of pressure. Finally, found a bottom down here around $19 and has rallied up. Currently trading about 20. All right, but the automakers are all going to be declaring this week, or at least these big three, as well as the one that I think is going to be the most notable of them all. Now, they're actually based in Texas now, and not Detroit, and that is Tesla. All right, so Tesla. Here's the interesting thing about Tesla. You can see the stock made a big rally, and any time that we get this little bit of a consolidation right before earnings, this could be a predecessor to a possible big move. Okay, either way, we have this little wedge that's forming here, consolidation right before earnings, and Tesla, it's up over 5% today. But I think through the earnings, which will be after market close tomorrow, all right, after market close, I think we're going to get possibly a big move, and that is mostly out of some of the gigacast. Thank you, gigacast, and gigacasting is the new design and process that they have on generating molds. Anyway, that could feed into the earnings and the possible future expectations of the stock. So, of all the automakers, really, I think it's the new Texas company that it might steal the spotlight this week as far as the automakers go. All right, so we've gone from 688 companies down to several dozen, and then down to a handful. And now we're going to talk about where our focus is this week. And believe it or not, it is not on any of the automakers. It is down in a sector that, well, this stock tends to jump around quite a bit. All right, and it has a history of moving quite a bit through earnings, and that is Spotify. Okay, Spotify is going to be the trade that we're watching this week. This is a stock that does trend up and down during regular trading, but when it comes to earnings, this stock typically will move upwards of 14% through earnings. All right, Spotify is just one of those stocks that tends to move big, and so what we're doing is we're looking at a strangle on Spotify. Now, because this is a $300 stock, or well, it's trading around 290, 293 right now, 292. These types of strategies can get a little expensive. So if you're trading with a smaller account, 10,000 or 15,000, I would probably stay away from a stock like Spotify. But if you're trading with a bigger account, say $50,000 or up, where you can keep your risk below that 5% level for any particular trade, then I think this is the type of trade that would be appropriate if you're trying to apply some good money management principles. So anyway, we're expecting a move out of Spotify, and we'll see if we get it. The stock did drop. I did really like this this pattern here going into about 10 days ago. Okay. And then the stock did sell off a bit. I would hope that it's not too much to steal away. When those stocks consolidate, that just builds pressure in the stock. I'm hoping that this little drop didn't take away from some of that pressure that's building, and we could see a pretty big move in Spotify this week. So that is our show for this week. Nice and concise, and we'll get a little bit more in depth each and every week with stocks that you will want to know about and stocks that you want to follow. In fact, why don't you let me know what you're looking at and what you're keeping an eye on? We're in the heart of earnings season. Just let us know what you are looking at that has maybe some upcoming earnings, or how you did, or how you traded through a certain earnings event that has already occurred. So that's it for this week. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for joining us, and I will talk to you again next week. Everyone, take care.